Welcome to Taco About It Tuesday, where we taco about it on Tuesday. If you're not already aware, we go live every Tuesday at noon. So check us out. If you subscribe, you're going to get a notification when we go live. I think that's a great idea because we have good stuff. Like today in particular, we have the distinct honor of hosting Shane Finn. He is fantastic. We're going to talk to him. Before we jump into that, I want to invite you guys to subscribe. Like I said, we go live every noon on Tuesday. And if you hit the like button, you're going to hear about it. And you're going to be with us when we go live. And like we've been doing every week, if you share this and you send us a screenshot, we're going to send you some swag. And we have Shane. Hey, buddy, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good, Tyler. Doing pretty good. How are you?
I am doing better than good. I'm doing fantastic. If you
Right.
guys are not aware of who Shane is, which you should be, by the way, he is an Irish ultra endurance athlete. Not just an athlete, but he's an ultra endurance athlete and a really impressive man just in general. If you haven't been following him in 2014, he started off, well, he didn't start off. He was doing stuff before this, but in 2014, he ran 12 marathons in 12 days. In 2017, he doubled down and he ran 24 marathons in 24 days. A lot of people are excited about running one marathon in like their whole life. And this man is well beyond that. And he kills it. In 2019, he biked across a combination of running and biking across the U.S., literally from San Francisco to New York City. Incredible. This man is just an athlete for athletes. He is an impressive specimen, and there cannot be enough to be said about him. Beyond everything that he has achieved physically, he is just a good dude because he is doing this largely for his passion behind spina bifida and hydrocephalus Ireland, which is the nonprofit organization that he is trying to build and grow, and has done an amazing job. If I may say so myself, I have no right to say so myself. He's a fantastic man. And his connection with SportRx is he has been an ambassador of SportRx since 2018. He actually came and visited us, spent some time with us. We did some sightseeing with him in San Diego, testing out sunglasses. He was doing some coffee tasting with us and just going around and giving us some good YouTube advice and help with everything that he can contribute in terms of frames that are fantastic, lenses that work. And so thank you for taking the time with us, Shane. This is awesome to have you.
Well, Tyler, that was quite the introduction. I am completely dumbfounded by that introduction. That was one of the best pronunciations of spina bifida and hydrocephalus I have ever heard. Usually people don't get that right from the beginning, but no, man, it's good. It's good to be here. I'm excited. I'm obviously we're landlocked here in Ireland. We can't leave or nobody can come in, well, for a while at least. So it's great to be able to do this kind of stuff. You know, some people give out about the internet, but it's pretty good to keep us all connected, I guess.
Oh, big time. Yeah. And I could go on and on. You say that was a good intro, and that's awesome. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, everything that you've achieved, that was just a quick rundown, but you are very impressive. I mean, just beyond your physical abilities, your heart behind it is really inspiring, and that's super cool. So you're coming to us from Ireland. I want to start this off just by saying he is in Ireland right now. He's our Irish friend. Obviously, he lives in Ireland. He's streaming right now from Ireland. Hopefully, we don't have any connection issues, but if we do, we'll figure it out as quickly as possible. So bear with us. Thank you for joining us. What's going on in the background there?
Not a lot, I tell you. So where I'm from in Ireland is a really small town. If any of your viewers or listeners on Facebook or YouTube have a pre-perceived version of what Ireland is in their mind, fields, sheep, stone walls, ocean, that's where I'm from. So I'm from a little town called Dingle. It's actually quite a popular tourist town for American visitors. We get a lot of visitors from the US here, which is great. And my mom owns this curtain shop in Dingle. And that's where I am right now because, again, in our rural setting, the Wi-Fi is not fantastic. Let's just put it bluntly like that. So the Wi-Fi in the town is quite good. So I've come to the town to check in with you guys in San Diego. But yeah, it's good. I was actually this shop. My mom has had it for nearly 20 years. I would have grown up upstairs, but now we live out in the countryside a little bit, and it's great. My mom, everything is shut down in Ireland, just similar to the rest of the world, I guess, right now. But my mom has come back because she's volunteering. She's making face masks for frontline workers here in Ireland, nurses, doctors, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of nice, in the midst of this kind of strange times, we can still help people, which is great.
That is incredible. I mean, it's it's a unique situation we're in, and you are in I mean, I would think that it would be better. I would personally like to be where you're at. You're in a rural area, and I looked up some pictures. You told me to look up rural Ireland, and that'll be similar to where you actually are. And I was a little jealous because it looks beautiful. You say you're in Dingle, and that actually is when you ran your first marathon, right? The Dingle Marathon.
Yeah, so funny story. I mean, I have such a strange entry into endurance sports. I kind of ran in school just a little bit. I played field sports. We have a sport here in Ireland called Gaelic football. So the only way I can kind of describe it is like if you were to put soccer, American football, a bit of MMA, and maybe some running into it. That's the only. If any of your viewers want to just YouTube Gaelic football, and if you want to just be perplexed,
Immediately.
it's crazy. So we played. That's where I'm from in Ireland. That's very popular. Irish people, we're very proud of our heritage and whatnot, and where we're from and stuff. So, and the biggest Gaelic football club in the world is in China. So we spread everywhere. But I grew up playing Gaelic football, and I just decided to run a marathon for charity when I actually hadn't turned 18, and you have to be 18 to run a marathon, legally, I guess, with rules.
Sure.
You can bend the rules. So I tried to sign up online and I couldn't because I wasn't 18. So I just made up a name and I just paid that way. So
no way.
Yeah, I did my first marathon. That's my cousin Mary. You guys will see there right on screen. So she has spina bifida and hydrocephalus. So as you guys can see, her condition's quite severe. And I guess Mary and I were both our eldest part of my mom's side of the family. And I always knew growing up that her condition was difficult. She couldn't play with us. Even when I was a child, she couldn't play with us. She couldn't play football with us. She couldn't go outside with us, this kind of stuff. So I always knew, even from when I was a child, like really young, that Mary had difficulties that we did not have. So when I was 18, I thought I had everything figured out, just finishing high school, heading to college. I had actually nothing figured out, and then decided I was just going to run this marathon, and didn't really train for it, but we raised nearly €8,000 my first marathon.
Wow.
And I nearly died. Actually, I was as close as I've ever been to dying was in that first marathon. Suffered hugely, but it just ignited a lot of pain, first of all, and then it ignited, after when the pain went away, it ignited, I guess, a new passion for not only helping people, but for pushing myself. I realized that, like a lot of young people, maybe a lot of people in the US can relate to this as well. I lacked direction. I was kind of just floating. I wasn't, I was in the system. I was going to get a college, I was come out and get a job, and there was nothing else. So I didn't want that. Deep down, I didn't want it. And I guess running that I know it sounds so crazy, but that first marathon, changed my life and put me on a completely different direction. It's still everything I've done, everything you named off at the start. That the hardest thing I've ever done is that first marathon, because I was so unprepared physically, mentally, and I went through. Like I said, I genuinely think I was close to dying. I was in so much pain, I remember cramping up at mile 7, and there's a lot of more miles
That's
left after mile 7.
to
But
say the least.
I remember just like telling I wasn't stopping. I had just raised this money for my cousin Mary, her charity, and I was just like, she can't even walk. So I mean, if worse comes to worse, I can still walk. And I'll get to the point where I nearly couldn't walk towards the end. But I've gone from there to now, like Tyler, I've run over 100 marathons. I've done Ironmans all over the world. I've done ultra marathons everywhere. I've seen a lot of the world through running. Made it my career, made it my job, made it my passion, and I just enjoy it. And it's great. I mean, Dingle's a great place. It'll always be here. I have huge plans from a business perspective, from a personal perspective, from an endurance perspective. But I do see myself returning here to, I guess, grow old and whatnot, down by the ocean with the cliffs and the fields and the sheep and that kind of stuff. It's perfect for an old person, but for a guy in his mid-20s, mid to late 20s now, I guess, it's a good place, but there's definitely more places I want to see.
Heck yeah. I mean, you say perfect for an old person, and that makes me feel old because that sounds really cool to me. But yeah, so I think it's safe to say that you were not inspired to ultra running because of Forrest Gump.
No, I had no idea. I had no idea who he was until I was running for like 4 years. You know what I mean?
So, but you are familiar with.
Oh yeah, I've watched it like 100 times now.
Incredible. That's incredible. Yeah. But yeah, so it's crazy to hear you say that you almost died, and I had heard about that, and it just baffles the mind. But the fact that you're saying you're cramped up at mile 7, and that makes sense because you're saying that the most important skill that you have is resilience.
Yeah.
And so that makes a lot of sense. Did you where did that come from? I mean, when you were growing up, were you running? Were you cycling as a youth?
Not really. I was very fit. Like I was, what we say in Ireland, I was just kind of tough and hardy. I was wiry. That's what we would say.
You're a good Irishman.
Literally, like I would do anything. Like I would be out on the farm, I'd be playing Gaelic football, I'd be doing cross country running in school. To be honest, Tyler, the only reason I did cross country running in school was because, well, there's probably 2 reasons. One, we got to leave school for a day, and I didn't have to do like science and maths and that kind of stuff. Or B, there was girls on the team. That was probably the only reason I went and ran cross country for school. It was never my intention to go to college and run cross country. You know what I mean? So it was such a strange. I mean, I had a great, like, don't get me, I had a great upbringing. Like, I had such a fantastic family. Like, my parents are still probably my biggest role models, and it's a strange story, and I just got into it, and you know what, I love it. Some days I hate it, don't get me wrong, but it's an interesting story for sure.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so that's really cool. And you did, like I mentioned, you did 24 marathons in 24 days. A lot of people think that it's an achievement, and rightly so, that it's an achievement in life to do a single marathon in a lifetime. Why 24 in 24? Was it anything beyond raising money for these charities?
Great question. So you've answered half of the question already for me, which is handy, Tyler. Thank you. So basically, Tyler, what I did, right, is I probably right after I turned, I suppose, 18, I ran that first marathon and stuff like that. I was headed to college. And I was still a bit lost, and I knew that I needed to do something for myself, because I was just doing what I was doing what a young person was told to do: school, college, job. And I was just like, I'm not sure if that works for me. So anyway, I ended up dropping out of college pretty quickly. I didn't go running full time, but I was trying to figure out, I was like, I kind of like this fitness stuff, So I went back, I studied strength and conditioning, did all my personal training certifications, whatnot. And I was like, well, what do I do now? So it was then I set up my first business when I was 20. Myself and my still best friend, Mark, we opened our first gym. And funny story, Mark is actually my cousin Mary's first cousin, but from the other side. So Mark and I aren't related, but we have the same first cousin, who is Mary. So Mark would have played football at quite a high level for our state, our county, our state, I guess. So we were both very sporty, we were both very fit, and we had both had done the same kind of, we'll say, qualifications and whatnot. So we gave it a shot. We ran a gym for 6 years here in Dingle. It was fantastic. I've recently moved on, but that was, I suppose, a real, I suppose, the movement for me to get into making fitness kind of my job and my life and whatnot. And then I suppose in 2014, I had run a couple more marathons. Didn't nearly die in those ones. Kind of trained a bit more and stuff. So I ran some in Ireland. I ran New York City, which is a phenomenal experience. And then I just knew I had to do something different, Tyler. So I wanted to raise more money for charity. So in 2014, I decided to run across Ireland. Now Ireland's pretty small because I've now crossed America and I realized Ireland's really small. So it took me 12 days. So I ran a marathon every day for 12 days, and I just knew that I had to do something different, something bigger, something that would capture people's attention. Things like sponsors, stuff like that. And we raised 30,000 euro, which at the time was huge. I thought it was like $1 million. Like I was like, this is crazy. But then I quickly realized that, I was like there's more out there for two things. There's more out there from a fundraising perspective, and there's more out there. I got more in me too. That's not my limit. I can do. Sure, it was tough. It was really hard, and then it was the Christmas. I'm really skipping through stuff. It was the Christmas of 2015, 2016. I happened to meet my cousin Mary's doctors, or one of her doctors, and my cousin Mary's mom was there at the time, and she's my auntie. And he said, "Are you the cousin that does the running?" And I'm like, yeah. He said she talks about you all the time and stuff. And people had kind of left, and it was just me and him, kind of chit chat or whatever. And he said, I'm not too sure if you realize, but that girl feels the feeling of pain 24 hours a day. And that was like, we've a lot of moments in our lives, Tyler, where, I'm sure it's the same in the US. Like everybody, even here in Ireland, because we're so close to America, everybody remembers where they were when they heard about or they saw 9/11. That was almost like a 9/11 moment for me. Like my knees went weak. I was just like, what am I doing? Like I thought like I was doing great. And when I realized that, listen, there's so much more I could do. So it was at that point, literally within 25 minutes, I decided I was going to run 24 marathons in 24 days in 24 counties around Ireland to represent an hour in the day of somebody with a disability and their family. So this thing had grown, Tyler, from like me wanting to do a marathon for my cousin to now like me wanting to do a marathons for my cousin, push myself to the absolute limit, and also help a lot of other families throughout Ireland who I'd gotten to know over the last couple of years and stuff like that. And again, like I would never recommend anybody to do anything like this, but for me, it was twofold. It was incredibly, I suppose, humbling because I got to meet so many fantastic people. And then number two, I have this little dark side that I don't really talk about too much, but when I love finding out how far I can go. I mean, it's a thing I say to people all the time. People are like, why would you do that kind of stuff? And I understand it's a very valid question, but I mean, look, I've been given a gift of good health, and some of the people I've met, Tyler, and your listeners might understand this over the last couple of years. A lot of people I've met and worked with, or they can't get out of bed on their own in the morning. A lot of people are not as lucky as I am. And I understand that no matter how hard my day has been from a work perspective, from a training perspective, I can still get up myself the next morning. And that's a big, big win. And a lot of people I was representing couldn't do that. So from there, really, when you think about it, like I never struggle with things like motivation and stuff like that. It is what it is. I'm doing what I'm doing, and that's it. And the 24 marathons was a phenomenal success. I mean, it just blew up. It blew up in Ireland because it's the first time anything kind of had been done like that in Ireland. I know you guys had Dean Canzares that did the 1550 in the US. It was the first kind of thing like that in Ireland in quite a while. We had everybody from Irish rugby, like Irish rugby is huge. Like the Irish rugby team, like met me. Conor McGregor's coach invited me to his gym. Like all this kind of crazy stuff was happening. And we were just like, this is nuts. And we raised 142,000 euro. I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's a lot. It's nearly $160,000, I guess. And that from when that finished, I was like, all right, that's it. No more. I'm not doing anything else. That is it. For done. Never again. I need to do my own life now. And
Oh my
man,
gosh.
slowly but surely got dragged back in again. But I guess that's the next part of the conversation.
My goodness. That's incredible. Your heart is so big. I feel like my heart's getting a little bigger itself. You say dark side, but it's like what you're saying is like there's this tiny little bit that you get out of it, but there's so much of your motivation that's behind others, and that's incredible. And you kind of answered this question. I don't know if you have any more to get into this, but you quoted in one of your videos, you're saying money is great, but it's about awareness, it's about hope, it's about happiness. And I was just wondering how your awareness or hope or
Mm.
happiness has evolved as you've been working with this charity and as you've been doing all of this just incredible physically exerting work, and if there's been anything especially rewarding that you've gotten out of it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so a lot of people and a lot of interviews I've done, even here in Ireland, like I remember when we finished the 24 marathons, I was on the like national news in Ireland, and the first thing I actually didn't even enjoy the interview because the first thing that they alluded to was the money. And I was like, yeah, this like. Then that's when I had a chance to do another interview a couple of weeks later. I was like, yeah, it's not about it is about the money, but it's not about the money. The money's great. The money's going to help families. It's going to help kids. It's going to help, I don't know, a single mom living on her own, with a new wheelchair for her daughter, or it's going to help a young family rebuild their house, or so. I don't know. It's going to put on summer camps for kids. That's what the money's doing. But there's another side of it where you get to give people hope. You get to bring happiness to people. You get to a lot of the people, I guess, in the charity and the members and the families and stuff. It's tough. They've got a very, very tough life, and it's not just when you put it into context, I guess, Tyler. Right? So it's 24 days, 24 hard days, but a lot of people, like my cousin Mary, for example, she's been fighting for 36 years, not
Ugh.
days, years. So this is how I kind of build these things in my head. I'm like, yeah, it's a crazy thing. It's going to be really tough. I'm not sure if I can do it. But hey, there's people that are fighting a lot more than I am. And I know when day 25 comes, I get to go back to having my normal life.
Huh.
Whereas my cousin Mary had to wake up on day 35 and get to work again and keep fighting, So it's changed my perspective. It's changed my perspective in my own life, what I do, how I approach every single day. Not just events, it's changed everything for me. So, and it's not something I try and push on other people and stuff like that. It's just I just try my best to share it with people and say, hey, look, yeah, what you see online and what you see, I suppose, on donation numbers and stuff, it's fantastic. It's awesome. Like I love seeing those numbers rise, and we get loads of donations for the charity, and it gets put to good use. But the happiness that you get to bring somebody, you can't put a price on that. Or I've met so many like great like young kids and stuff like that have like literally like they just think I'm Superman or something because I'm
Yeah.
raising money for their charity and I'm kind of their guy, so it's really nice, and you get to see that not just the kids, I guess, but their parents that would maybe struggle and they don't have a lot of other, say, peer support in their area. They don't have any other young they don't have any other young adults with whose kids have special needs or whatever, so for them to be involved in something and for me to come along and say, hey, listen, look, it's okay, we'll do this together, etc., etc. So anything I've done, Tyler, really, it's never really been about me. Yeah, there's a certain section of it where I turn it very much so me against me, but there's also a part where we're all in this together. So it's definitely, look, it's changed my perspective massively, and I think it'll be hard to change that back to any other way, over the years to come.
That's really inspiring, and I'm really impressed by you. I mean, most like I just talk about how what we consider to be an accomplishment is you say you're trying to figure out what your limits are, and you just keep pushing them and pushing them and pushing them, and that's super impressive. You're doing this for a really good cause, and a lot of people are going to look at what you've done physically and just think 24 in 24, that will be so hard physically. And I know that there is so much more than just the physical endurance beyond it. Behind it is there's so much mentally behind it, that endurance that you have to have mentally. And I don't know how you get past that. It's like, I guess you answered it with what you said. Like there's so much that has encouraged you, and you have this perspective that is beyond yourself, and it's really, really cool. But I'm curious to know how you have, or what you've done to create this mental endurance. I don't know. What do you think about when you're running for that long?
Sure.
You know, I have an idea of what motivates you, but I mean, what is going on in your head, and how do you push yourself?
Weird stuff is what goes on in my head. So no,
Okay.
it's a great question. It's something that the answer varies quite often, Tyler, depending on where I am and what I'm doing. So, for example, take the 24 marathons, for example. So that took place in Ireland, all around the whole country. We started up the very north, and we came all the way down to we finished literally right outside the door here. So
Nice.
I think out of the 24 days, there was 20 days where I had people running with me. Um, and I'm a very social guy. I'm a very friendly guy. I think Irish people in general just are. We like talking to people. We like hearing where their story and where they're from and stuff. And so that was great. That passed a lot of time for me. But it got to a stage where I was really hurting, and I was like, you get out of bed in the morning, and look, we talk about all the things that you would think of, but there's also things that you wouldn't even consider, that you wouldn't even think of. Like you're asleep at night in the hotel, and like you move in the bed and you wake up because the duvet is like rubbing off the blisters in your feet, and it's just
Oh,
shooting pain. Like these little things, so I would sleep with my feet out of the duvet every night. Just little things like that. It's just it's these little small little things that would
unbelievable.
compound over time, that could potentially drive you crazy when you're doing something like this.
For
So
sure.
I literally just take every hour as it comes. There were times, I guess, during the 24 marathons, and here's an interesting one, actually. It's funny because when I say these things, nobody can really relate to them. But what it is your body adapts to whatever you put it in. I'm not going to get too sciencey here, but your body adapts to whatever you subject it to. So if you're sedentary, your body becomes really good at being sedentary. If you're on the go all the time, your body becomes really used to being on the go. The body is a very, very smart thing. So I started running usually in these things, and it takes me about 10 days to adapt. And that now my body now perceives this as its new normal. Okay, he's running a marathon a day. He's probably not going to stop. We just got to adapt and deal with it. I ran my fastest marathon on day 19 of the 24 and 24.
Wow.
When you look at it, I shouldn't have, because it was quite a hilly day. But it was one of these days where I was on my own. And as much stuff as I do, and much time as I spend with people, I think it's a common trait amongst in ultra endurance athletes. We just love our own space. We love being on our own, just getting into the flow of running. So there's a couple different things. That particular day, the weather was quite nice. I love heat, which we don't get a lot of in Ireland, but I
Oh,
seem to like it. And I got to just put some music in and just got to run. I didn't have to, like, it sounds terrible, I didn't have to talk to people. People were like, what would happen is, you would run with a new person every single day, but they keep asking you the same questions. It's not their fault.
mhm.
The person the day before had asked the same question. You're kind of like, you've just run 260 miles, and somebody's like, so how are you feeling? I was like, well, I feel like I've just run
Tired.
260. I'm pretty tired. Yeah, my legs don't work very well. I can't touch my knees or my toes, but other than that, I'm doing okay. So I just try make fun out of it. I try just be as lighthearted as I can. And just, it's important to take it kind of kilometer by kilometer. And literally, I know that sounds ridiculous, and people are like, how'd you break down a 1,000-kilometer event into kilometer by kilometer? That's what
A
you got to
thousand
do.
times.
If you're thinking too much ahead, that will kind of, I suppose, that's hard to deal with too. And like, this is where I get to train. So this is one of my running routes up a mountain. It's kind of like this holy mountain here in Ireland. It's called Mount Brandon.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's really, really nice. It's just like a 5 a.m. sunrise run I do sometimes. It's peace and
Wow.
quiet. There's no, I've gone on 4, 5, 6 hour runs in the mountains, and I've never met anybody. The only
Wow.
person, like, yeah, so it's pretty cool. That's one of the, I guess, the benefits of living where I live. Yeah, so I guess, look, I'm a solitary enough kind of guy, and when I get into these things, when I start to struggle, I got to go back to that way of living and just being present with myself. There's so many other stuff going on. Even in the America trip, there was so much stuff going wrong that I just had to kind of reverse back and just be in the moment and just focus on the next step or focus on the next pedal stroke on my bike, and just keep it really simple. Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, I can't wait for my invite to Ireland. I would love to visit you. So I'll
just thought we should have a SportRx thing in Ireland. I think that sounds good.
We should.
Robin's gonna pay.
Yes, sir. 100%. And you're talking about when you were here with us in America, and so the American Ultra experience. You have mentioned that as you were kind of revving up to it and preparing for it, that it was unlike anything that you had ever done before. And I mean, just beyond understanding anything you're doing or having any experience doing what you're doing, you know that you're going through a whole continent. You're going through different atmospheres. You're going through different just conditions that change rapidly. Is there any value that you learn from this experience being so different from anything that you'd ever done before?
The biggest thing I learned is America's huge. That's the number one. So funny story on that. So when I finished the 24 marathons, as I said, I was like, all right, I'm done. That's it. I'm retiring from ultra endurance. But I do some work in New York and Connecticut with two different things. And I was in Connecticut at the time, and I was on my way to visit family in Boston. Like every Irish person's got family in Boston. So I was on my way to Boston. Know that. Yeah, I know. You learn something new every day. Cool. So I got a call from the charity, and they said they got bad news. And I was like, what's up? And they said the funding's been cut by 50 grand for next year. So this was right after we had run literally all around Ireland and raised 140,000 euros. And it was a killer blow, because a couple of things were no longer going to happen. There was a lot of kids all over Ireland, in wheelchairs and with different conditions who couldn't go on a summer camp. There was, certain events weren't going to happen for the kids and stuff like that. And literally, I remember sitting in this cafe in Fairfield in Connecticut, is the name of the town. And I walked down to the beach and I looked out onto the ocean, and literally within 25, 30 minutes again, I was like, that's it. I have to cross America. And there was no real rationale behind it. I had crossed Ireland. I'd gone around Ireland. I was like, well, I'm kind of running out of roads in Ireland. So I was like, it's the greatest country in the world. Like every ultra endurance athlete wants to cross America. Yes. So I opened up my laptop and I was like, oh, okay. It's kind of big. It's big. So I worked out if I was to run a marathon every day, it was going to take me about 112 days to cross the whole continent from San Francisco to New York.
That's not how long it took you.
I know. I was like, well, that's too long. I mean, I had a business, was starting a business, and I had my crew and stuff. I was like, I can't expect people that they would either kill me or they'd kill each other. I didn't really know. So I was like, well, I've done 12. I've done 24. I was like, it's got to be 36, because if it's not, it's going to annoy me for years to come. So I was like, right, what can I break into 36 days? And then I decided to break it into this kind of ultra run, ultra bike format. And it's a lot more achievable from a time perspective. My PT actually came with me for the whole trip, stuff like that. Rather than trying to get people to come for 110 days, I think I could kind of convince people to come for 36 days. So,
absolutely.
My biggest doubt actually came probably in the November before I even came to you guys, when I flew from New York to San Francisco. And the flight from New York to San Francisco took me longer than the flight from Dublin in Ireland to New York. So I was looking at the map thing on the plane. I was like, the air hostess was Irish, and she was very nice. And there was just two of us and she was there giving us extra food and stuff. And I asked her, I said, the time to destination, I said, is that correct? And she said, yeah, it's usually it's always fairly correct. And she was like, why? I said, I'm just wondering, because I'm actually going to come back this way, like on a bike and running next year. And she just looked at me and she said,
with just my body.
And I was just like, that's a long flight. And she was like, yeah, all right. Do you need anything else? I'm like, no. But so that's just too funny. And then from there, really, Tyler, we just started putting plans in place. You know, I was very eager to try and make up the difference of the 50,000 euros, so the services that were cut could still carry on. And you have to there's a lot of things to take into consideration. You know, I wasn't going to be earning any money myself for nearly 2 months because I was going to be over there training and doing the event. You know, my father, who is probably my main kind of right hand man and my crew man and these things, he came. We have a family farm at home. My parents have a business together. So there was a lot of things that needed to be looked into before we even considered making this a reality. And you know, everybody, like my uncles kind of came and did the farming. You know, somebody came and kind of helped my mom in the shop. Like my whole family just came together to try and make this thing happen. And we got the green light from the charity. I got the green light from my cousin Mary. And the reason we wanted to finish in New York was it's an iconic city. Obviously, you know, it's whatever. It's close to Ireland, so we knew when we were finishing it was actually going to be a holiday weekend in Ireland. That's why we finished in the early May, because it was a holiday weekend in Ireland. So my family were going to fly, and some of my friends flew from Ireland on the Thursday. And, you know, like it was like, we call it bank holidays in Ireland. Like, so everywhere was shut on the Monday, like all the schools and work and stuff. So people flew back on the Monday. So that was great. My cousin Mary had never been to New York, and it was her dream since she was been a kid. She always wanted to go to New York. And obviously, you know, with her complications and her reduced mobility and her, you know, getting around is tough. It just never happened. So I literally borderline harassed Aer Lingus to get us a flight for her. I'm pretty sure anybody who works for Aer Lingus on LinkedIn has now blocked me. But we got it done. We got her a flight. She enjoyed her trip. We can talk about the event itself, but from a mindset perspective, there was no way I was going to not be there on that last day, because and believe me, there were a couple of times where it was touch and go. Is that a term in the US? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, there was a couple of times that were like, I was, you know, things were a bit rough and I wasn't going to make it. 4 times maybe. And as the video just says, the risk of failure with this was huge. And I remember, I think about this stuff very deeply when I'm on my own. And I remember on that flight from Dublin to Boulder, because I went to Boulder to train and to work with an Irish guy out there for a while, and just to train mainly, really. This guy works in the endurance industry with the US Olympic team. So he's a really high qualified bike fitter. So he was Irish. I reached out to him. I said, hey, listen, I'm doing this thing. You know, can you give me any advice or anything like that? And he not only gave me advice, he said, hey, listen, love what you're doing, been following you for a while. Fly to Boulder. You can stay with me for 2 or 3 weeks. That'll be my donation to the charity. We'll show you around. And that was just absolutely awesome. And it turns out now we're going to be doing some work together. So, you know, it was great it started off well. And then I remember that kind of week I was in California. I came to visit you guys, and then I went back to San Francisco again. And I was just staying in this little Airbnb in Oakland, just outside the city. And I remember like the 4 or 5 days before I started, I was like, there is a really high possibility I might not be able to finish this. So yeah, that sinks in. You know, you got people flying all the way from Ireland to California to be on your crew and to drive your RV and stuff. And yeah, look, it's tough. You gotta, I suppose, put the doubts to the side and just give it a shot. Take it day by day. It was rough, but it was beautiful. I loved it. I, honest to God, if I could go again and start it tomorrow, I would. It was such an amazing experience. The vastness of the country. I don't know. Was it we had a big RV and we had an Irish flag flying off the back of it, and people were just enthralled. Like, people were like, we're in the middle of Kansas, and people were like, we've never seen an Irish flag before. So they were asking where we were from and what we were doing, and people were just so kind. Like, not once. I'm not just saying that because you guys are all in the US, and not once did we get any trouble or any bit of bad vibes off anybody or anything. People were so kind to us. Even coming into New York, like, we had a freaking RV and we were probably blocking up half of Manhattan. People were still really, really nice to us. From what I saw, I don't know, there might have been a couple of other incidents that I didn't see, but it's okay. But it was a great experience. I mean, it was okay. From that first marathon, this was the next toughest thing I've ever done. Just the relentlessness of it. This thing was 5 weeks in duration. You know, is like just
Yeah.
training for it. Try to eat through the whole thing. I found out that you guys in the US, you guys have Oreo double stuff.
Yeah, you don't?
We do not. They're not a thing here.
What?
So that was one of the highlights of my trip. Yeah. So what I would do, is I would get an Oreo's double stuff. I would pull it apart. I would
Yeah.
fill it with peanut butter, and I would put it back together again, and then eat it on the bike. The best.
What?
I'm big into my nutrition and my high performance nutrition,
I'm,
but there comes a time, man, where you just got to eat an Oreo, and it was
yeah.
so good.
Oh,
Every
peanut
Walmart.
butter. I am trying that tonight.
I would get
awesome.
it depends. Yeah. So it was great. I loved it. I love the country. Like I said, the people were fantastic, and yeah, I would definitely do it again. I am going to do it again. We'll just
what
put
was
that
your
out there, yeah.
What was your favorite stop in the US, or favorite thing you ran through, or whatever? It stopped or not? What was your favorite spot?
During the event? Like during the probably
just during the event, because I know that it's San Diego.
Yeah, I was hoping you're gonna cue me up there. Anyways, my favorite stop was probably in Utah. I loved Utah because it's very different to Ireland, and I'd never ever seen kind of canyons and stuff like that before. And we took a wrong turn one day, and we went, well, we didn't take a wrong turn. I think it was an intentional wrong turn. We went off track one day because we wanted to bring in Bryce Canyon. So I biked all the way up through Bryce Canyon, and it was probably the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Just the vastness of it. We dipped down into like these little canyons, and like there was literally 200 feet of, and there's this tiny little road going through the canyon, and I was just weaving through it. Like we'd no phone coverage, we'd nothing. I didn't even know if we were going the right way. I was just trusting the crew, but I was just so happy in that moment. I was like, there's a possibility I'll never again get to come here. So I'm hurting a lot, but let's just soak it in. Do you know what I mean? I'm making progress back. I had lost some distance this year in Nevadas, and by the time I got to Utah, I was starting to kind of get back a bit of distance and stuff like that. And so Utah was nice. And then I love California. California was so cool. Obviously, the trip down to San Diego. I'd never been to San Diego. It was my first time. I'd been to San Francisco a couple times, but I love a couple things about Cal. I love the kind of lifestyle. People are very laid back. People are very chill, like completely different than New York. You know, so look, it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed like just the difference of each state. This is what a person not from America. This is what I think. Each state was almost like going into a different country. You know, like the difference between Utah and Kansas, like the road surface, because I was on a bike, I could feel it. The road surface would change. Like literally when you cross the state line, you would feel like I might have to increase or decrease my tire pressure because the road surface would change instantaneously. So it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. The Rockies they nearly killed me, but they were phenomenal. I'm live beside the sea, so we don't really live at altitude here in Ireland, but it had taken its toll on me. I was at altitude for 19 days, pushing hard. So
Don't do that.
No, it's not recommended. But hey, I had to get to New York, man. My flight home was leaving from New York, so you know, I actually do remember having a conversation with my doctor at home in Ireland. I called him one day when I was in Colorado and I have a very close friend who's a nurse in upstate New York. And I called both of them on the same day because I was a bit worried because I was kind of coughing up. I've coughed up blood before, but I was coughing up quite a lot of blood. And any kind of very, very high altitude climb. There's one particular one called Wolf Creek. It's like 11,000 feet. And the blood was just flowing down my nose and stuff. So, there was one time where I was like, should I stop? Because this isn't, you know, okay, I'm going to do it, but like, am I going to
kill myself?
Am I going to do, yeah, literally, you know? So I had that one moment where I stopped and pulled over and called the nurse in New York. And then that evening, I called my doctor at home and he said, get out of altitude and you'll be fine. I was like, that's all you can tell me? He said, honestly, you know, look, and the next day we got out of altitude and I was absolutely perfect again. So yeah, look, it comes with it, I guess. I was so fatigued. The cold actually got me quite badly. Usually Ireland's cold all the time, but because I was so fatigued, I was like losing some weight. I felt the cold a lot more. I remember one morning, like I just started cycling and I was like, you know, I was moving along and stuff like that, and my water bottles were frozen like within an hour. So
Oh my
look,
gosh.
yeah, little things like that. I just
All those
wasn't
things
really
compound.
ready for. Yeah, they all compound for sure. Yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a great
I
trip.
mean, yeah, you hung out with Rob obviously when you came, and he did the Rockies. He cycled through them, and that, I mean, that was a feat. But oh my gosh, that's incredible. So speaking of you, obviously you visited us. You're an ambassador for us. We've set you up with some frames that we think would serve you well. You got a pair of really good ultra sport sunglasses, and then you got a good pair of like all around casual everyday. Be
Yeah.
honest, which one do you use more when you're running?
I'm a jawbreaker dude all day.
Nice.
I actually don't wear anything else. I just wear those. I mean, I
All
just
right.
because. So what happens is I wear contact lenses, okay, and
Okay.
I sometimes I find because the wind in Ireland kind of it can go any way. It can come from the side, it can come from behind, and I do sometimes find
Okay.
when I don't have like a nice lens that wraps around, I find sometimes that my eyes get a bit watery. And when you're
Ah,
going like 50 miles an hour down a hill on a bike, it can get kind of dangerous. So I like when I can kind of the lens. I like the way that the jawbreaker lens wraps around a little bit, and I never. That's why I don't wear anything else. I never have any problems with my eyes with those on. So yeah, if
that's
it ain't
awesome.
broken, don't fix it. That's what they say, right?
Heck yeah. That and they suit you really well. As you can see. Look how good you look, dude.
Yeah, I
So
know. I
rad.
think it's the SportRx jacket. I think it's the SportRx.
Oh, you. Well, speaking of gear, you're doing some crazy mileage or kilometers, however you want to say it. And there's going to obviously be a lot of wear and tear on your gear. And we have people that are watching that are certainly going to. I mean, you're crazy, inspiring, just in general with everything that you're doing beyond just the physical. But there are a lot of people who do this every day and they want to progress. And what do you
Sure.
do gear wise to handle this wear and tear, whether it be shoes, helmets, base
Yeah.
layers, whatever, clothing?
Sure. I yeah, people think I have like this crazy like this treasure chest of stuff.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just keep it really simple. I wear kind of these Nike running shorts. I wear just like a Solomon jacket. I don't know if you guys have Solomon in the US. It's like a trail
Yeah.
brand. I wear just normal running t-shirts. During the winter, I guess sometimes I would wear like a base layer or like skins. I wear 2XU are my kind of chosen kind of compression tights for longer stuff over the winter.
Nice.
And then just from a bike perspective, I just always have. I feel the cold more on the bike, so I'd have a jacket. My obviously jawbreakers to keep my eyes warm. Then I have
Heck yeah.
like so I also ride for Specialized here in Ireland. So I would have my Specialized bike, my Specialized helmet, and because I travel so much, I just need less stuff. So I often think with my kit, less is more. But from if we got people watching, the best way to get used to whatever kit you want to get used to is to try it out. You got to make sure that your kit is comfortable because if you're going to be spending an extended period of
Yeah.
time in it, you got to make sure it's comfy because there's no point just buying something because you like the brand or you like the look of it. You got to find out, what's really comfy for you. Does it fit your hips? Does it fit your shoulders? Does it rub underneath your arms? So you got to try these things out and stick with what's really comfortable. I think that's key.
No joke. Yeah. So one last thing while we're talking practicalities, diet. You
Yeah.
mentioned double stuff Oreos. Is there anything that you do differently before an event, during an event, or just in your everyday life?
So I eat a very traditional kind of, I guess, typical Irish diet. I do a lot of fasted training. So I train on empty
Okay.
in the mornings. So I would go run for maybe 90 minutes or go on the bike for 90 minutes in the morning, maybe longer. Basically, the only reason I do that, and not to get into too much of the specifics, but it just trains my body to use fat as a fuel source. So when I was training for America, I would go up to anything to 3-4 hours in the morning completely on empty, just with a coffee and some water. But I was going at a very low intensity, and it took me quite a while to build up to that level of fasted training. So from a daily, we'll take today for example. Today I woke up, I had a coffee. I actually 2 coffees, and then I had kind of like an omelet with. I'm a bit quirky with my omelets actually. So I put like green pesto in there, onion, ham, bit of cheese, stuff like that. And then I chop up some baby potatoes, put them in there. So again, plenty of protein, good fats, getting some carbohydrate in through the baby potatoes. And then for lunch, I was training around 1 or 2 o'clock today. So I had a smoothie when I came back. So again, I don't really script the smoothies. I just kind of, just throw whatever's there into them. If I feel like I'm training a lot and I might not get enough protein in that day, I might add a scoop of whey protein in there. I don't take a lot of supplements, but if I do feel like I need something, I will take it. And then for dinner, all I had like this evening was just like spaghetti bolognese. So I just kept it really simple. A lot of times we take turns cooking at home. So any night I'm cooking, it's usually meat based. So it could be steak or
Nice.
lamb or something like that. We've some fantastic fish here as well. So I just try to eat a really broad, balanced, nutritionally dense diet. I think a lot of people when they're training or whether they're endurance athletes or whatever, we often look for like the one percenters or what's the secret sauce or what can I add in. But I just recommend people kind of focus on the basics first. Go on get the 99% of stuff right first. So that's your food, your training, your sleep, and your recovery, and then focus about like the supplements, the perfect training program, that kind of stuff. So nail the basics first, and then you'd be surprised at how much you can progress without all the fancy stuff. So from a nutritional perspective, I keep it simple as well.
That's awesome. That's good to hear. You're like a regular guy, but also a very impressive man. So
I'm a
I will
normal
say
person.
that that's good to hear. Yeah, as impressed as I was with you getting into this, I am tenfold that much more a Shane Finn fan because
Thanks,
you
Tyler.
just seem like a good, genuine dude. You have a huge heart, and oh my gosh, I'm very impressed with you. Thank you so much for spending this time with us. This is really cool. I cannot wait to visit you. I'm waiting for your invite in my email. By the way, you said Instagram. You're at Shane Finn. You have a website. I would encourage everyone to check out his website. This is where you can support him and help him with everything he's doing. Also, you can check up on what he's doing. And you have a podcast as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So I've got a
So
kind of just a basic endurance kind of inspiring based podcast where I interview people from all over the world. And the podcast is not about me. It's called the Pushing Limits Podcast. So it's more about, educating people and just sharing inspiring stories.
podcast is not about me. Just like everything in your life, you do so much for other people. I'm
Oh yeah.
really inspired by you. Thank you so much. So is there anything specific that you'd like to plug right now? Anything you have in the works in planning?
Not necessarily. No, I'm just very
Okay.
excited to get back to because we don't have fish tacos here. So that's one thing I'm excited about in the future.
Yeah. Come
That's
get some
a
tacos.
personal goal of mine to get back to California for some proper tacos. From a business perspective, I've got a lot of stuff going on at the moment, which is great. I'm working on a thing in Boulder. I'm working on something in New York, where basically this thing in New York is like it's a online fitness business, but specifically for Irish Americans. So for Irish people living on the East Coast. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. It's something different. And then I've got my own kind of coaching stuff happening too. So there's a lot of stuff going on at the moment. But look, it's all good. I mean, I'm fit, I'm healthy. Everything else is irrelevant. So
You can
they're the
get
main thing.
yourself up every morning. Yeah.
That's it. And no matter what's happening, I can still give it a shot,
That's incredible. All right. Well, thank you again so much for joining us. You're an awesome dude. We cannot wait to see you again and keep up with everything that you're doing. We'll make sure to follow you along, as I encourage everyone else to do, on Instagram, on his website. Check out his podcast. Super cool. By the way, at SportRx, if you're looking to get that pair of Jawbreakers, you want something casual or anything eyewear related, we are here and available for you. As you can see, I'm in my humble abode. We are happy to help you. We cannot wait to hear from you. So reach out to us. And again, if you share this, like this, subscribe, but again, share specifically, you're going to get some swag. Just reach out to us and we will mail it to you for freezies. That's all you got to do. So hit us up. Thank you again, Shane Finn. You are an inspiration, and I really appreciate this time that you're taking with us. And send love to your family and thank them for going above and beyond, just like you do. It's amazing. They're making it's incredible.
Appreciate it, Tyler. Thanks so much, man. Really great to be with you guys in California. Stay safe, and hopefully it won't be too long before I get to see you guys again in person.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Keep pushing your limits, man.
You too, man.
Inspiration. Well, thank you again, everyone.
Thanks, Tyler.
Check us out next week. We'll be here again Tuesday at noon.